Hi, I'm Dave Koch. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're taking on one of those really controversial or one of those subjects that really doesn't have a good definitive answer. I guess that's the best way to put it. And that is pricing for your photography. You know, some people say you need to price based on the market. Some people say you need to price based on your abilities and your experience. And some people say just make a guess, whatever sounds good, go with that. I, on the other hand, come down in a completely different way. I think that you need to feel confident in your pricing. And that isn't to say that the amount of money that you need to make a week, a month, a year doesn't come into play in that your expenses don't come into play in that. They do. But when all is said and done, it's important that you have the confidence to stand behind the price that you're telling people that you charge, and that you feel confident and even happy with what you are charging. After all, you can't expect your clients to believe in your pricing if you don't. I know that sounds a little harsh, but you know what? It's true. If you flinch a little bit, if you're a little hesitant when you send out a quote because you think it might be a little high, clients can sense that and they know. And there's just no way you can hide your lack of confidence when you're applying for a job, essentially, with a quote. And so in a lot of ways, it might be your very own mindset that is holding you back from reaching the next level. You need to not only be aware of your market and what prices are in your market, but you need to really be confident and aware of what those pricing levels mean as far as experience and quality of images produced. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why pricing actually should start with you and your own mindset. And this change in your own mindset might be the most profitable thing you do all year. Let's get one thing clear at the outset. Underpricing is not an attempt to undercut the market as much as it's just rooted in fear. Fear that you're not worth it. Fear that you can't compete. Fear that you might miss a job. And all of these are irrational fears. But here's the truth. You're not selling pictures. You're selling experience, your experience. And you're selling value, what you bring to the table, what your pictures do that other people's pictures don't do. And that's what you're selling, and that's what you need to price to. You are selling your experience. You're selling the gear that you use. You're selling your abilities. And you're selling your customer service. You're selling your interaction and the ease of your interaction from your client to you and to getting those pictures. You are the shortcut between a realtor and their final pictures. So the easier you make that, the more carefree you make that, and the better your pictures, the more value you have to that realtor. And that's what you should be basing your price on. After all, you're solving a problem for your client. Your client has so many things to do every day, they don't have time to take pictures too. So in some ways, if you're that photographer that just fits into the slot that, you shoot the pictures and give them to them and they're done, then maybe you don't have as much value as the photographer who will build the website for them or take care of the aerials and the Matterport and all that, and then put that into a website. That has more income for you as a photographer because it has more value to the realtor as your client. Your customer service also comes into play. The easier you are to work with, the easier it is for the client to just call you up and say, hey, I need somebody on Saturday at 10. Can you be there? And you just say, yeah, I'll take care of it. No worries. And they know they don't even have to be there to let you in the door, that you'll take care of it. That has immense value to a client, and you can charge more for that. But you have to also build your reputation in that field too. That's part of it too. But once you get known as somebody not only who delivers pictures, but can be counted on and will help out when, hey, I'm in a rush, I need to get these out really quick. When you're that photographer, you become the go-to photographer, you get more jobs, and you can ask for more money. Sometimes, and we all get this, even I get this to this day, I had one last week, where they offer well below what your minimum is. You need to have personal standards too. If you won't roll on anything for less than $175 and somebody calls you up and says, hey, I've got this 600 square foot apartment, can you do it for $150? The answer is no. You have to have standards and you have to apply them across the board. That just makes your life a little easier. And these standards will change over time. They'll go up. But, there's a lot of, some of these national companies that'll say, hey, I've got an Airbnb for you to shoot. We'll pay you $125. You've got to be willing to say, you know what? That's well below my standard. I'm not going to do that. That is much different than setting your price. Same goes for things where the realtor or the broker especially will ask you to come in and then sign away your rights to the images. That's okay if you want to do that. It's your images, you can sign the rights away, but make sure you get paid for it and make sure you get paid your going rate for those images. That's just part of what should happen. You can't go into McDonald's and buy a burger and then say, oh, and can you add the fries, and expect the fries to be free. If somebody hires you to take pictures under an MLS agreement, and then they say, oh, and by the way, yeah, we want to own the pictures too for in perpetuity, well, yeah, you can, but there's a cost to that, and this is what that is. If they pay that, great. Go home, buy yourself, I don't know, a new guitar, something like that, because that's not a cheap thing to do. But if they're willing to pay for it, I would definitely do it. Anytime you're doing a job at a cost less than you normally would charge for it, you're losing money. You probably have a pricing structure that's set basically at your break-even point, or maybe a little bit above. But when you take those jobs that are $150, $125 or whatever, you could have been making $175, $200, $250, whatever for that same hour, 2 hours of time. So that's costing you money. And sometimes just for your own sake, it's better to do nothing than to undervalue yourself in the marketplace. But most of all, that gets back to the root of what this video is about. If you don't believe in what you charge, why should anybody else? If you're not going to back up what your rates are, then nobody else is going to accept them either. If you offer discounts, then everybody's going to assume that discounted rate is your rate, and they're going to expect it every single time. That's why we don't discount. That's why we don't undercut ourselves and undercut other people in the market. Set your rates to the market you're targeting, and then stick to those rates. So let me ask you this. Are you running a business, or are you just doing favors for friends? You have to treat this like a business. You can't go into a Smith's or a Lucky or anything and say, hey, these grapes are $1.99 a pound. How about I pay you $1.75? It doesn't work that way, and it shouldn't work that way if you're running a business. I get it. I was there. I started out, I was hungry for every single job, and I didn't want to say no to anything. And, you're going to do that no matter what I say, no matter what everybody else says, you're going to do it. I did it. And let's be honest, we all did it. But once you get on your feet and once you're running a business, you'll be well past that. There is a time and a place, I guess, to do that is what I'm saying. But you need to get out of that mode as quickly as you can. And the best way to do that is to be doing a good job, to be making great photographs, and to be giving customers great customer service. That's what your goal should be. And your goal should be to raise your level of photography and raise your prices as soon as you can. The sooner you can move from the idea of, can I raise my prices and can my customers afford that, to how can I not afford to raise my prices, the sooner you'll have a more thriving and an active business. Every single time I have raised my prices, I have made more money and I've had more clients. You may lose some clients along the way as you make different jumps, but the clients you'll gain are far better clients and will pay you more money, and that's more money in your pocket. That's why I charge mileage. It's not because I'm greedy. It's because that's time that takes away from time I could be photographing other houses. I don't do it around town locally, but if I'm spending more than 45 minutes each way on a drive, that's an hour and a half total. That's a whole nother house I could have shot that day. And while my mileage doesn't exactly equate to what a photography session would cost, you know what? It does help make up for that time on the road. And that's why you need to charge for all these different things. Hey, you're out here, why don't you go ahead and just do some aerials? Yeah, but I'm going to charge for that because that's a service that has value. That's the important thing. And that has value to you. If you're asking for it, it has value to you, and I'm going to charge you for it. Don't be afraid. When somebody does scope creep, when the scope of your assignment goes beyond what you originally agreed on, always say, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. This is what it'll cost. And get it okayed right there. Let them know that they're not going to get away with that for free. As I mentioned earlier, when you're starting out, a lot of these rules are going to be broken. You should not break the discount rule. You can have a limited time offer, which in its very name says that the scope of this is limited, or you can have an introductory offer, a first time offer. You can do different things that will lower your price. But whatever you do, don't discount. That is just an abhorrent word and a word you should never use. The basic idea is be intentional and be very clear in your wording. An introductory offer, very clear. A limited time offer, again, very clear. A discount just says, hey, I don't know the value of what I do, and so I'm going to lower the price and hope that I can sucker you in. And that's not the photographer you want to be. And getting back to confidence, does discount show confidence? Does introductory offer show confidence? Shows a lot more than saying, hey, I'm going to give you a discount on this. If you're going to, after you entered the industry a little bit and you've been shooting for a while and an introductory offer doesn't really work for you, you can do it as you introduce new services. You have Matterport. Do an introductory offer on your Matterport to existing clients. That's great. But once you get going, you should not need to or have to discount introductory offer or lower your fees for anything. They hire you for your value. They've already paid you at full rate. They should continue to pay you at full rate because you've already proven your value at that rate. There comes a time in every photographer's career where they realize they're undercharging for their time and what they're doing on site. That's the point at which you raise your rates. It doesn't matter whether it's June or December. When you start feeling you're undervalued, it's time to raise your rates. Again, like I said earlier, you may lose a customer or two, but the customers you'll gain will be higher quality, better clients. And everybody I know who I've talked to has always found that to be the case. If you follow this channel, you'll know that I sign off every video with may your next shoot be your best shoot. And we've talked about it occasionally, but I think it really comes into play here more than anywhere in the idea that you should always be learning and growing. And what that means is increasing your value. So when I say may your next shoot be your best shoot, I'm hoping that, in a week's, 2 weeks, a month's, 2 months' time, that you're able to charge more for the same work that you're doing because you've increased your value as a photographer. And that's what it's all about. So if you want to raise your rates and still sleep at night, know your value. And when you see your value increase, that's when you raise your rates. And then everything will just work from there. Your pricing only works if you believe in it first. And when you see your value increase, then you can increase the cost of your shoots and you'll stand behind that and you'll feel good about it. And the good news, that belief starts today. Your photography has value. Assess that. I hope you learned something in this video, and I hope it encouraged you to go out there and be a better photographer and to be more firm in your pricing. If that helped you at all, please leave a note in the comments, send me an email, do something, let me know that I helped, because that's why I'm doing this. I'm here to help out. I really enjoy this, and if this helped you, make sure to like and subscribe. The next episode in this little mini-series will be about finding your pricing tier in the market and how to pursue those clients in that tier. I think that'll be very helpful. So like and subscribe, and you'll make sure to get that video. But until then, may your next shoot be your best shoot.